Good afternoon. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 14th Pitt County Department of Social Services Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start by observing a moment of silence or silent prayer. Okay, thank you. So let's move into the agenda here. Do we have any public comment? Nobody signed up for public comment, so move on from that. And do we have any revisions to today's agenda?
No.
No revisions. If not, if I could have a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. So thanks for that. And again, we've all received copies of last month's minutes, so if you've had a chance to review those, if we could go ahead and approve those minutes from last month.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moving along here. Thank you very much. So next item on our agenda is the items for consent, and I see that we have one item here. Ms. Jan, so you want to talk a little bit about that for us?
Sure. I'll do a real quick overview. We had the opportunity to apply for a Coalition for Safer Families grant. It is up to $2.7 million over a 5-year period. There is no county match. It is to support the development, implementation, and evaluation of strategies for strengthening families, including those at high risk of maltreatment, and to enhance the capacity of communities in addressing the well-being of families or to prevent maltreatment and entry into foster care. We're excited about trying to do this. We're going to be working with a lot of our partners in the community. We will be working with the Partnership for Children. We'll be working with, obviously, the TediBear folks, Sheriff's Department, just a whole group of folks to try and put together something that goes nicely with the work we're doing around prevention. Child abuse and getting a plan together. So that's what we want to focus on. Again, it is no county match.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Deanne about that?
No.
If not, so we may have a motion to approve this? Do we need that?
That's what we need, a motion, then I can take it to the commissioners for their authorization
So
to
one
apply.
question, when
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
grant, when are we expected to hear?
Well, this grant is due June the 11th. We probably won't hear for probably 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
That's typically what it takes.
So could I have a motion to approve? And
Motion to approve. Second.
okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're good for that. Okay, items for consent. Now moving on to items for discussion today. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jan.
Well, I want to introduce folks from our community who are going to do some exciting things in the next month for us. So I want to introduce Gregory Green, owner of Great Harvest Bread, and Kia Glosson with TediBear, to come forward and talk about what they're getting ready to do.
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening.
So we are working in partnership with the TediBear Foundation and hopefully with DSS for the month of June. We're tentatively calling it Teddy's for Foster, but the goal is to highlight community needs around social services and around foster care and adoption here in Pitt County. And so what we're proposing to do is we'll make the TediBear Foundation our nonprofit of the month. Every month we choose a local nonprofit that we highlight. We create a custom dessert just for them, and then we allow them to do promotional stuff throughout the bakery, telling about the issues that they deal with in the community and the needs that they have. And then a portion of the proceeds from that product, which we carry every day all month long, then go back to that organization. In addition to that, if you're familiar with what we did with the honey bunnies with the police officers, we're going to do that with teddy bears for DSS and foster care. So we'll have Henry Hinton and local TV stations in on the 21st in the morning to do a kind of a big media drive where we hope to kind of highlight social services here in Pitt County and issues that we face in foster care and adoption adoption and so forth. And then all the next week, we will have folks from the different agencies involved, DSS, we look possibly Sheriff's Department, Police Department, TediBear Foundation on our kneading table making bread teddy bears. We'll also do a
Board
plush.
members, right?
Yes, whoever wants to. And we'll make bread teddy bears. We'll open them up to the public, and for every teddy bear sold, we will give $4 from that teddy bear back to DSS and the TediBear Foundation. And the goal is to highlight as much as we can and to provide as much community support as we can back into Pitt County.
This is fantastic. Yeah, and we owe Kia a big vote of thanks for
thank
getting
you,
us
Kia.
involved.
Absolutely.
Come on,
And I brought
we're partners. But I
a
do
test
yeah.
teddy bear.
Can we see it?
Absolutely.
around.
So the bag's a little, it's been in my car, so it's not the best presentation, and we did this one out of cinnamon chip
Oh,
bread.
that is so nice.
So it's a little bit softer than what a honey wheat one would be, but.
That is really
It's
nice.
tasty.
Yes, the honey wheat was tasty.
So I would like to say that, so
Beautiful.
our emphasis is on DSS, that we want to support and we want to help the community to better support DSS and all of the work that you guys do. And so we tag team. Chandra's organizing the DSS part, and I'm organizing the community partners. So I already have contacted the Sheriff's Office and the Greenville PD, and so we're going to look at the times and give priority to DSS people and board members, but then fill in the gap with some other community partners, because I found this meme and I think it's perfect. I saw it on Facebook. It says, "It takes a village to raise a child and a whole society to help a child who has been traumatized." So we are that whole society alongside you guys, supporting you guys for what you do. And we can't do it without you, and I think it helps you if we're there to help support. And so one of my hopes and goals in the Brace Collaborative that we've been forming in the community is to hopefully change the environment so that DSS workers will feel more valued and appreciated. I used to be a teacher, so I know sometimes you can feel like you just get the bad comments in life. So we want to help say thank you for all you do in a public way, and that's our goal and purpose and hope, is that everything would go to, all of the glory and honor would go to you guys for all that you do.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
This is just so
It's
exciting.
very
I thank
exciting.
you, sir, so much
Oh, it's
for
been
your
good fun.
contribution.
Absolutely.
So let us know when we can come over and help out.
And playing bread.
And please come and do. I mean, it's, the goal really is to raise awareness. And, I used to work in the church. I was an Army chaplain before this. I was in foster care for a while as a child. And so I know the hard work. And, and I know that the needs are greater than most people realize. And so, we'll put up whatever you give us that month in the bakery, and the goal is to really kind of highlight our public need, and I'll throw a challenge out to other business leaders in the process over the radio,
Yeah.
and we'll see the community come around. I truly believe that the community will rally around, and it's my honor to be able to do it.
Well,
Thank you so
for doing
much.
that.
And I'll leave
much.
this bear for whoever wants. So I'll leave it right there.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Okay, well, that's exciting. Okay, let's, next on the agenda here, I see foster care and licensing. So we're
Right.
going to hear from somebody else here. Lisa?
Because this is foster care month.
Yes.
Hey, I'm Rhonda Dawson. I am one of the permanency planning supervisors here. I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the exciting things that have been going on the past year here at Pitt County in foster care. Thanks to the hard work of the board and Miss Elliott, we now have 4 units instead of 3 units. We have been given additional staff, additional social workers to help with the workload. We currently have 207 kids in custody. But the good thing that is happening is so far this year, we have had 34 children leave foster care. Whereas last year at this time, we had only had 9 children leave. And thus far this year, we've had 22 children enter foster care, and this time last year, we had had 27. So the numbers of our entry haven't changed. That they're similar, but the big number is the number of children that we have had leave the department's custody. And I think a lot of that comes from having the additional staff, the additional support. We're better able to get our cases down to standard, so workers aren't kind of running around and handling the blow-ups that happen with disruptions and things like that. And thus far, we've had 3 adoptions this year. Last year, we had 4, and there are several. I think there's probably 4 to 6 more that are going to be finalized in the next 2 months. So we have a lot of good things going on, including permanency roundtables. Those have been very beneficial. We've been doing those for over a year now. And that's a process where we bring our quote-unquote stuck cases and just try and brainstorm. It's not a blame game. We're just trying to figure out what can we do. Because the end goal is to get children out of foster care. So, and through the 4 units at this time, we only have 1 vacancy, which is that's really good. We've been working really hard to get those vacancies filled and get everybody trained. So far, everybody that we do have has had pre-service, and they're going through regular trainings that they have to go through and starting to manage a caseload. So those are a lot of good things. We're working with our court partners. We just had a court partner meeting about 3 weeks ago where we had the opportunity to talk to the GAL, other attorneys that work with the parents and some of the judges, and reviewed some of the things that we had going on. So there's a lot of good things happening. We don't hear a lot about the good things that are going on in foster care so much, with the numbers steadily rising. But I think it's really good to note that so far we've had 34 children leave the department's custody this year. So, and I'll let Chandra talk some more.
So May is National Foster Care Month, and it's a time to recognize that we each can play a part in enhancing the lives of children and youth in foster care. It is also a time to acknowledge foster parents, family members, volunteers, policymakers, child welfare professionals, and other members of the community who help the children and youth in foster care. On June 12th of this year, we're going to have 3 of our foster children that will serve as state representatives on the Say So Board of Directors. Say So is the Strong Able Youth Speaking Out. It's an advocacy organization for the youth in foster care in North Carolina. This year, we will have 10 children in our foster care system that will graduate from high school. And also, this Saturday, May 18th, we will recognize our foster parents at the Andrew A. Best Freedom Park, where we're going to have a picnic with food, fun activities for the children. We invite each of you, if you would like to come out. It's from 12 to 3. Again, it's at the Andrew A. Best Freedom Park on Oakdale Road, and it's a celebration for our foster parents for the service that they provide to us and the children in our foster care system.
And what's the date of that again?
May 18th, this Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday.
Yes, sir, from 12 to 3.
Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions?
No, just appreciate everything that you do and your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move into the director's report.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about Medicaid Transformation first.
Okay, and let me say, we are going to recognize again our foster children who are graduating
Yeah, I was wondering.
with the group. They'll be here for the next meeting. So now I doubt that all of them will make it, but they will certainly be here. Medicaid Transformation is going to be a fairly short report today. It is taking over my life. And it technically is about 170 days to go live for those first two regions. So we will begin to see how this all works. The beneficiaries in those first two regions will start receiving their mailings, their packets, on June 28th. So there's a whole lot going on. They have to have picked a plan in that particular region by September 13th. So, but about that same time, we are rolling out with our packages to our beneficiaries saying it's time for you to start getting involved and enrolled. So we are going to be meeting with a lot of folks. Brian and his crew are starting to work on it. We have what I'm going to call a champion sitting in on a lot of conference calls. I am part of the statewide planning committee as for DSSs to work with the Division of Health Benefits around the planning. So that's going on there as a provider. All the providers have to have their directories out shortly so that the folks will know who's going to be in their network, what providers are in their network. There's also a lot of work going on with the County Commissioners Association to get them involved because this impacts more than DSS. It will be impacting the transportation systems, the health departments, the LMEs at some point. So there's a lot to understand, and the County Commissioners Association has put together a committee with the Division of Health Benefits and at least one DSS director to try and think about what the regions need to look like for the LMEs, because they're going to, they need about 12,000 patients to make it cost effective per LME. And they're going from like 1 million beneficiaries when the first group of plans rolls out to about 140 or so beneficiaries that will remain with the LMEs. So the LMEs have got to think through a lot of things in this process. There are going to be toolkits sent out to the counties to help us evaluate impacts and to think about what we need. One of the things that they keep talking about, which is driving me a little bonkers, is the need to have a warm handoff. So when my beneficiary comes in, that's what my client is now called, a beneficiary. When they come in the door and say, I don't understand, I got this packet in the mail, what am I supposed to do with it? My staff are not supposed to sit down and explain that packet. My staff are supposed to pick up the phone, dial the phone, get the enrollment broker, and connect the two together. That's the warm handoff at that time. Well, if they do that in the employee's office, that means they can't see the next person waiting out in the lobby. So there's a lot of conversation about we probably need to set up some phone banks or something like that where we could send folks to do that dialing, hand it off, and then we go back to our work. So we're trying to evaluate what all that looks like. But that is one of the big conversations. Let's see, the other things that are going on right now with it, they will be starting shortly to market. Obviously, that will be more in the first two regions than in ours yet. They'll wait a while. There's a lot of training going on. We have actually gotten to meet with all of the PHPs. We're also gotten to meet with all of the transportation brokers. There are technically 5 PHPs, but there will only be 4 for our region. And each of those PHPs have contracted with different providers of transportation.
Wow.
So those brokers are going to be different depending on the PHP. There are 3 transportation brokers, so a couple of them are using the same one. So we won't be scheduling the transportation for the bulk of our folks anymore. Remember, 1.6 million of the 2.2 million are going to move over to this new plan. So with that will go the transportation needs for those folks. So we're also evaluating how we will use our folks in the short term and the long term, because we have several folks that are involved in transportation arranging. And obviously, there are plenty of things for them to do once this phases out. I think it's going to take us a while before we initially phase out, even though in January, trips that are being scheduled for February will go to the transportation broker, not to us. It's going to take, we're going to still get the calls and have to redirect people for a while. So I think there's still going to be plenty to do in February, probably March, and then things will slow down some for us. So at that point, we can start training these folks to do some other things. Let's see, we're trying to figure out how we're going to do, we've talked about with the PHPs, how to best notify our folks, also with the enrollment brokers, how to best notify our folks, and to give them the opportunity to interact with as many of these groups as possible so they can make the best choice. So local events, the enrollment brokers are trying to get involved in as many local events as they can. So if we know of something that might have the population that we need to be talking to, we need to be letting them know. The enrollment, the PHPs and I have talked about, because they'd really like to come on the property and solicit. And we don't let folks come on the property and solicit. And so we're talking about maybe trying to have a fair, a benefits kind of fair, where all of them could be in the same room and market to the beneficiaries. They could go around, they could talk to them, they could find out what the differences are, what docs are in their particular group. So all of that's going on. It's a lot of things up in the air. I could give you a whole lot more. They're trying to think about ways to publicize. I was talking to Kevin Fitzgerald, who is working with public TV in Chapel Hill, and he said, perhaps they need, because he's been involved with this, that perhaps they could start running do some productions and run some of that. We'll probably start running some things in our lobby, on our videos in the lobby. We'll probably start trying to put some things out on the county website. But we're still a tad bit early for us yet to start doing that. But it's coming. So marketing is going to be a big issue. Outreach activities, getting our staff thinking about what they're going to need to be saying to people, making sure we've kind of got our script at the front desk and at the worker level, and all those kinds of things. So all that's going on. Brian and I had a meeting the other day with one of the big practices here in town, trying to think about it from their perspective, because they're going to get lots of phone calls from their patients going, I got this stuff in the mail. So they're trying to think through how it's all going to flow. They're trying to think through how the Medicaid card, if they show up with the wrong Medicaid card, and the state keeps saying, right service, right time, what's needed, that's the goal, and we're not going to hold people up just because we're in transition. I know this provider was concerned because we border Wilson and some of those counties that are going earlier than we are, what the bleed over effect's going to be. So there's lots of questions, lots of concerns. We're slowly getting the answers. Every time we have a meeting, we think of about 50 more questions, and so it's moving. There is, there's a lot to work out. There's some things in the legislature that they need to get done this year that will help them. One of the bills is to try and capitate the dental services, just like we're capitating the medical care. And we have trouble getting dentists to serve now, so I'm not sure how far that will go. Each PHP will issue their own Medicaid card.
Wow.
So there will be 5, but for us, 4 different Medicaid cards out there, plus the regular Medicaid card for those people that remain in fee-for-service. Medicaid Direct. It's now called Medicaid Direct, not fee-for-service. Medicaid Managed Care is all the folks going in. So your Medicaid ID number will be on the card, and that will be consistent. But you'll you'll have your own card. WellCare's got their card, United Health, Healthy Blue, and AmeriHealth Caritas has their own cards. So, like I say, it's a fun time. And we're learning a lot. And it will be here before we know it. Anybody got any questions about my most current? And again, remember, it's whole person care. The whole thing is focused on whole person care. So when mental health has them, they'll be doing whole person care. When the PHP has it, if it's not a heavy user of mental health services, they'll be responsible for those mental health services, whole person care.
So Jan, in terms of the enrollment period, so people that are not captured during that period of time, so will there be efforts to do outreach in terms of making sure that everybody gets into the system?
Yeah, what's going to happen is, and Maximus, having done this in 20-some other states, has some benchmarks that they're expecting.
I see.
And they have indicated that about 20% of the Medicaid beneficiaries will self-select. The remaining 80% will be enrolled automatically into a plan. And that will be done based on the information that's in NC Tracks and what services and what docs they're using. And so then you've got 90 days from the point the plan rolls out. So for us, you have 90 days after February 1 to change, if you choose to change. And then you're locked down until your next review. So that's how they'll do it. They keep using algorithms. That's, there's algorithms for some of that. So that's the plan for that. Something else I thought of when you said that. Oh, well.
So 90 days post that initial period, everybody should be enrolled.
Everybody should be enrolled.
Jan, how will the Healthy Opportunities pilot impact this?
Well, Healthy Opportunities is going to roll out a little later. And certainly that will provide some support for those social determinants of health that are so critical to folks. If you don't have access to healthy foods, if you can't get to the doctor's office, if you don't have a place to live, those kinds of things will be covered through that process. I mean, there'll be some money out there. The PHP and the providers will be making those referrals. We're getting involved with NC Care 360 to try, that's I think one of the platforms that's out there, to try and connect people with resources through the various providers in the community. I know Pitt is rolling out shortly for that particular piece, and Gwen's been the point person on that for me. So, it's going to all come together eventually. I hope did I answer your?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Wow. Okay, so moving right on to the MOU.
It's okay. Okay, you all had a copy of the basic package. It could have been a lot thicker. But what the state has decided is that the data, they're not ready to actually hold us accountable for all 26 performance points this year, because the data just isn't there in part. And for some of this performance data, they want to give you incremental goals to give you the chance to work forward. You can't go from 30% to 95% overnight. And so they're trying to give you the opportunity to make improvements. So the 13 measures that can be locally generated right now and have been validated are basically those measures that are in economic services. It is child support, it is food stamps, it would be energy, it would be, the application processing for things like Work First. Those are some of the things that they can validate right now. Things like adult services, CPS, those kinds of things are still out in the future. Yeah, they're just out in the future. Let's just leave it at that. We will need to redo the signing of the MOU because every year, it only covers a one-year time period. So every year we'll have to go back to the county commissioners for the signing of the MOU. And so we will do that at their June meeting. Probably, after they get through the budget. So they are continuing to try and validate the data in those areas: child welfare, foster care, work first, adult protective services, special assistance, and child care subsidy. Some of that data is, even if they validate it, there's going to be some difficulty because if you have 3 cases and one of them's wrong, then obviously you have failed based on the evaluate or the cutoff that they've given you. So there's still some issues to be worked out around that. And for us, it's not going to be as big an issue because generally we have more cases in the mix, but there are some situations where even we don't have a large number of cases. When you think about a real small county that may have only 2 cases this month, missing one could be really problematic. There's still the corrective action plan in here. There is still the opportunity, certainly for a takeover after you get through all the corrective action plans. It is certainly hopeful that this is going to feel much more collaborative and less a stick. And certainly it is more collaborative. They're working with us a lot around trying to give us growth measures so that we can move in the direction they want us to move in. And they'll be measuring that. They also decided with child support, really they can't do that on a month-to-month basis. Child support bills each month on what was done the month before. So with child support, it will be a 1-year measurement that they'll be looking at. So that's good because you can be up and down a lot in child support. So just wanted you to have a copy of this. Again, you've got the rationale, the authority, what the MOU looks like for your reading pleasure. Questions?
No, I went through it and it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. And Kevin, by the way, for the commissioners is working on trying to get, even though the state isn't actually releasing information yet because they're still working on validation, Kevin is trying to pull together where we stand on all the MOU benchmarks at this point, even though we may not totally, be 100% in agreement, just to give the commissioners some sense of where we are, because we know, for example, in child welfare, we're having some struggles, and that would, that's
So that's all 26 in the benchmarks.
They all 26. If he can get the data, he's trying to get 4 months or so of that data in a chart form to see kind of how it's impacting us, how we're being impacted. So Kevin is working on that for me. He is my numbers person.
Any questions for Ms. Elliott on the MOU? Catherine? None. Okay, so Medicaid application processing report.
Yeah,
so we have that.
We're doing great. It should be in your packet. Yep. So we had 97% of our MAD cases processed timely this time, and 94% of our other Medicaids processed timely. Our goal is 90%. So I'm certainly real thrilled with our folks. And in fact, our folks in the, we're having trouble getting reviews done right now. And so folks in our intake section are helping out the review folks on weekends to get caught up, as are the folks in our quality improvement section helping out to get over the hump in the recertifications that we're having right now for Medicaid. You can see it's taken us about 28 days to process other Medicaid and about 59 days to process the MAD. And of course, the goal is 45 and 90. So I thank my people every day for how good they're doing.
So will this change with the Medicaid transformation, Jan, in terms of this How will that impact?
It will not change because you can't do anything till you have an application that's been approved.
Correct, so you still
So
do that?
we're still going to be under this. We also have a court order, Hawkins versus Cohen, that says that if we do not do the Medicaid review timely, that the state will automatically extend the Medicaid eligibility for 1 month, whether they qualify or not, until we get the review done. So that continuation could be more than 1 month if it takes us longer to get the review done. And so, that's scary because of the fact that we could have an ineligible case, and if they have some service, we could potentially be liable for it. So that's why we are really, and I understand you don't want somebody's Medicaid to stop just because the agency couldn't get the review done. And for example, I think we were looking the other day, and for June, we've got 2,000 reviews to do in the month of June. So, it's, some months are just really, really heavy. Other months are more manageable. And Brian, I can't remember how many we had to extend for April.
About 1,500.
About 1,500 were extended for April because we had such a huge number. So now they're just about all done, so they won't be extended another month.
So what's it mean to extend it?
That means they got an extra month of eligibility that they hadn't been verified for. So that is, that's where we are with that. Staff, like I say, staff are working really hard. They're doing some overtime, and other parts of the Economic Services Group is pitching in to help them get over that.
So those who pitch in, is that overtime pay or comp time?
It's comp time for everything we do.
Okay.
Okay. Hello. So, don't know if anybody's got any questions about what's going on with Medicaid processing.
Sounds like it's real busy.
It is a busy time. It is a busy time.
Right.
And some of this had to do with some of the extensions going on with the hurricanes and everything, because we got some grace period in Medicaid and food stamps for the hurricane. So.
Okay, if there's no more questions there, let's move on to your personnel report.
So we are down to 12 vacancies. I think we bumped back up to 13 today, but when I saw the posting for today, but as of the point this report was run, we had 12 vacancies. Everything is pretty much being advertised. The ones that were frozen, I think have all been released, but maybe one. I'm looking at Susan because she's got the numbers. Okay,
Three.
Okay, but I thought we posted several today. Yeah. So anyway, we are moving along. We are moving along there, and we've been real pleased with the applicants we've been getting. We have gotten some that are bilingual. We have gotten someone who can do sign language, who is doing eligibility, and we've got to be careful not to take her away from her job, her real job, too much to help us out with sign language. But so we're getting some really good applicants, and a fair number of them have already been through the NC Fast training at the college. So that is helping us getting them to hit the ground a little faster than they would have. So that's where we are there. And I know you haven't had a chance to look at the director report because I just gave it to you, but it has been a busy month. So I'll hit a few of those things. Obviously, Medicaid Transformation has been really busy. Ms. Mary and I went to Durham for the big Medicaid Transformation meeting for the commissioners, and that was the day that the gas explosion occurred, and we were just a few blocks from there, and the chandeliers were going, and we thought somebody had just dropped a bomb on us. So that was an exciting day. So certainly take a look at this when you get a chance. The budget was presented to the county manager and finance officer on actually he's assistant county manager, but also the finance guru, on April the 1st. And so we've been doing lots of running of what ifs and negotiations and whatever, so that's kept us pretty busy. Got the PowerPoint done, presented to the commissioners in May. The child welfare certainly is always up front, and so the one thing that I will share, because you've heard a little bit about some of this already, is that we had the most fantastic child abuse prevention
You did.
event.
Yes, you
Yes,
did.
we did. I'm hearing about it almost daily from folks. Our staff did a fantastic job putting that together. I think all of us were worn out completely by the end of that day. I know I was. And if it hadn't been for the motorcycle guys that were there who helped load all those tables back into the U-Haul truck, I might not have ever left the park because it was tired by 6:30. But I think we had a lot of exposure. I've heard counts of up to 1,000 people maybe came through. We know for a fact we sold 580 snow cones. Well, we had 580 snow cones used. Given away, yeah. So, because he was counting, because he had given us a certain number, and so he was paying close attention. So, I mean, and I don't know how the guy was making the clown balloon stuff, because he had a line all day long. Everybody had a good time. We had lots of good groups out there sharing information. So hopefully we made a difference, but if nothing else, we had a good time. So, big event for us. Personnel-wise, nothing there, just a few notes about what's been going on from personnel. And then I talked a little about how I'm working with advocacy so much because I'm the advocacy co-chair for our Social Services Association. And so we're working really hard trying to get our priorities into the legislative session. Not having a lot of progress, but we're working hard. There is a bill out, or two bills, one in the House and one in the Senate, around NC FAST and how that will move or not move forward. And we're trying to work on the Medicaid paybacks and the unfunded mandates, but not getting anywhere with those right now. There is potentially close to $900,000 right this minute in the House budget to help pay for APS positions in the state. Less than $900,000 over 100 counties is not a lot of money. But we'll see if that stays in after the Senate does their thing with the budget, but that's where we are. A significant number of Medicaid expansion bills out there. Not sure what that will do. Generally, the consensus is it probably will not be Medicaid expanded this year. If that happens, obviously, I've heard numbers from 5,000 to 6,500 for Pitt County, and you do know that we would be the folks that would have to do every one of those applications. So, so that's kind of what's going on at the DSS, and I certainly will answer any questions anybody may have.
Any questions for Dan? No? Okay. Well, thank you for that. So let's move on next. We're in record time here, I think. Let's move on next to board member comments, please. Any comments?
Just to commend you again for the wonderful Prevent Child Abuse Awareness Festival. It was great. Lots of people out there. Yeah. It's really good.
I'm trying to learn how to slow down, and so I didn't make that, but I've heard a lot about it, and the staff and you are to be commended, Jan. And there was some very strong help
Yes, there was.
with the motorcycle club. But if I had to make any comments of worthwhile, I like to, of course, see you coming up with a plan to share with the board and the general public as to how you're going to face what's coming down the pipe, or how you're going to inform the public of what's coming down the pipe. And one of the reasons I thought I'd bring it up, thank you for the notice on my phone. I have phone issues. I got rid of the phone issues for county manager's office. It wouldn't ring from them. Now I'm having phone issues with my email, so my clock doesn't go off when time comes. But I was helping someone that had not been to the office before, and she's gotten so she couldn't walk, and is asking for some food and assistance from the emergency pantry. So, and that has been coming up with different ones now at different times, and so it sort of concerned me, knowing what I do know about what's coming down the pipe, that how you're going to be able to face it is another situation. So I would share with you, I think you have a good idea how I feel about the county budget right now. So, and I'm dealing with some interpersonal things with that because I'm very passionate about helping people who are not able to help themselves. And I'm very concerned about those who can get around a little bit and don't know how to help themselves. And so I can understand some of your dilemma. And I don't know how I personally can face what I have to do, but I'm going to make a decision, and I'm certainly going to, I'm not one that will turn and run. I do value my district and the welfare of the families in my district very well. And you might not know, but my district is one of the poorest in the county, and it's large. But and you just can't take a few steps and get to developments. So I just hope your staff stays intact, and if we can do anything to keep them motivated and positive, I think it's due. I think it's due for whatever we can do, Jim and Sheila and
Catherine.
Catherine, to keep the staff positive and motivated and encouraged. I thank you for this time, for having this on the program and on the agenda. I look forward to how you recommend how we handle it, Jan.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to remind you, when I came on the board initially, it was very quickly, you and I loaded up into a car, and you did the tour of your, and we were on some roads I didn't even know existed. So you may want to extend the opportunity to
the new person.
and to Dr. Bunce too.
He was.
We had a good time.
Oh, really?
We had a good time.
I think it was an eye-opener, don't you think so?
Oh, well, I knew that part of the county. I didn't know all of that part of the county, but it was good that I could do that and then have the opportunity to spend time with you too.
Sheila, have you had the opportunity to visit the wonderful District 2?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Well, then maybe I could take the two of them on that on that trip. I think I'd set that up. I'll set that up for the two of you. So maybe Susan can get us coordinated.
Here to help.
Okay. And if you want to re-ride.
Well, I like to ride.
Okay, so my district can look forward to seeing us on Pitt County. The tour. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with my lateness too.
Okay. So do you have any comments, Catherine?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I think my husband did grow up in the northern part of the county, so I know a little bit about it.
Oh, yeah, what part?
Bethel.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Okay, so he can understand.
Yes.
And fill you in.
Yeah.
I would just like to kind of echo everybody's comments about the event, the child abuse awareness event. It was certainly to take something like that on, an all-day event, and all the moving parts and the players. It was very nice, and so I appreciate that, and thank everybody that was involved in that. So, Jen, you have something else you may want to mention here?
It just reminded me, as you know, Melanie Bryan will rotate off the board the end of June. We have several applicants. I've been sending those out to you all. I did talk with the manager, and he indicated that it would be good if the board had a recommendation to put that in writing to probably the chairman of the county commissioners and CC Ms. Perkins Williams, since she is the reigning commissioner on this board, ranking commissioner. So y'all need to do that probably by your June meeting so that we can get that in for them to have that vote the second meeting in June.
All right.
Okay. Anything else for the? for the
Whatever
meeting?
y'all want, I should push for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Perkins. So if there's nothing else,
I move adjourn.
have a second?
So moved.
Okay. So moved.
So moved.